Oh, I just destroyed my webinar registrations with high level, and it's with a really stupid bug that you really need to know about if you're using high level. Let me see if you guys can figure out what went wrong here. So I have myself a workflow. It's for a webinar, and there is 2 dates. There's an October 8th and there's an October 9th. Now, if I go into the execution logs and an if-else condition. Now, if you want to follow along, pause the video right now and take a look at this condition and tell me if you can see what's wrong with it. We have a Tuesday, October 8th. We have a Wednesday, October 9th. And then we have the person going through the October 8th. And obviously they're on the 9th, so this is false. And then we have this one, October 9th. It is October 9th, but it's also false. Pause and see if you can figure it out, because this took me hours. Okay, if you found it out, it's really simple. October 9th, 5 p.m. October 9th, 5 p.m. EST. So while the options are the same, what happened is that I had made the form in the custom fields, but there was not the time zone in the option of the radio filter. So what I did was, somebody said, hey, could you clear it up and just put the time zone? So I put the time zone in. And what that did is actually break the workflow. So all of the people were going, instead of going into October 9th, they're going into none. And it was just a giant mess. It made me realize that this is why you have to write down and document your snapshots. Because I changed the options of this work or of this field, and I changed the name of it, anywhere it shows up, whether it's in a if field, whether it's in a contact, like the contact update, let's for example, or update contact as it's actually called, in the update contact field, anywhere you use that in triggers, that means it's going to break. It's not going to work. This goes for drop-down lists, radio filters, and it might even be some of the other multiple choice lists as well. So this is how I document my snapshots to avoid problems just like this. So you can see my workflow is called registration confirmation reminders with a little ID tag at the front. Now in my documentation tool, quick note, this is called Snapshot Manager PRO. It's built off of Airtable, and it's a really amazing tool that hundreds of agencies use, but you don't need to use something like this. You can use a simple spreadsheet. So don't get confused by all of the Airtable stuff. Just think of it like a spreadsheet, and you'll be able to follow along with what I'm doing just fine, because the same things I'm doing here can be done in a spreadsheet. I'd really like it if you could buy my tool. And now you can see in my documentation tool, I have the actual workflow written down right here. So that's my registration. It's in my workflow folder called Big Webinar. And I have the root name. And one thing you do is you want to say what this does. So this workflow, it adds tags to participants and sends the confirmation and reminder emails. So just add a description saying, hey, that's what this workflow does. The next thing I want to do is I want to know what assets are being referenced in this workflow. So if anything goes wrong with any of the tags or custom fields, I'll be able to link it back to this workflow and know that I'm going to need to update it. So what I do is I go along the top and I say, hey, look, okay, in the triggers, we have a form. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go to my forms and look at that. I already have it linked. I can see all the information about this form if I want, but I now have it linked already. And then I'm going to go down to the next one. I don't have any custom fields being used here. Well, I'm using contact name. Oh, and look, I'm using a custom field right here. I have date, custom field. So the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to my custom fields column, and I'm just going to click right here, and I'm going to see if I have a custom field. Oh, I didn't document that custom field. Shame on me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to link this to my folder. So this is part of my big webinar. So I'm going to that's my custom fields folder. And this one is called Date Picker. Now, if you were just doing this on your own, you would just write the name, but with my system, it automatically creates the name, so it's consistently the same every time. Small detail. Cool, so I've made the name of that. Has two, I'm gonna add a description, has two options for registrants pick from for a date. Cool, and so now this custom field is linked. So I have my registration confirmation workflow. Now I know that this custom field is part of that workflow. If there's an issue with this date picker, or if I make an update to it, I can just scroll down here and I can see everything that this date picker is linked to. Is it linked to other workflows? Is it linked to any custom values or trigger links? All right there. And then you just keep going through the workflow, writing down and linking any assets that are there. So we just finished the internal notification. The next one is I have a tag called BW register. So I'm gonna have to just go to my tags and see if that, and again, I didn't document any of this. So I'm gonna select that this is part of the webinar. Root name is called registered. This tag means that they have registered for the big webinar. So I have my details in there. It's linked. And it's beautiful, and that's the name. BW registered, there, that one's documented, and that's it. You just keep going through your workflows, and by the end of it, what you have, whether it's a spreadsheet or using something like Snapshot Manager is you now have all of the assets in that workflow documented. So if anything goes wrong with any of the assets within that workflow, you can come back and you're gonna know exactly what it is. So what's really cool with Snapshot Manager Pro is I can go a little bit further, and I can even document all the changes that I make to these assets. So when I made that change to the custom field, if I had used my documentation tool properly, I would have known that I made a change to the name a day or two ago, but I didn't. And I'm gonna blame it on being sick for 3 weeks and being a little too fast, but regardless, I should have done that. So what I can do is I can go into the updates and I can say update. I'm going to create a new update. I'm going to say I added the time zone to the custom field options names. Added EST. This is live in my snapshot. I created it on this day. The day it was done was still Friday. So now when I go to updates, I can just see that, hey, here's the update that I did, is I added the time zone to the custom field option names. I can see that I did it in this account. I can say what was changed. Oh, I added EST to the option. That's all I did. That's what broke everything. And if I had done that, it would have saved me hours upon hours of time because one, I would have known exactly what was changed. And I would have known that, hey, I changed the name recently and I had forgotten that. This changelog would have reminded me that, and I probably would have said, well, that's probably the issue. Secondly, anywhere else that those custom fields are in the workflows, I wouldn't have to go and try and find them again because I would have had that documentation. And now what I have to do is I have to go through all my workflows, and every single place that that custom field is, I have to go and fix it and make sure it's there. So guys, learn from my mistakes. Make sure, I should know this. This is what I do every single day, but so guys, it's really important. Learn from my mistake. High level is awesome. It's really easy to do some fantastic things. But it also has the ability to create some massive problems for you that can get out of hand really, really quick. I just added EST to a custom field, and that ended up being hours and hours of work. So make sure you're documenting your snapshots, guys. If you need the Snapshot Manager, there's going to be links below. If you want to come to my workshop where I teach about concepts like these big kind of documentation problems, there's also going to be a link there. So I hope you guys learned a lot from this. Feel kind of silly telling the world about these dumb mistakes I made, but hey, we're all human. As long as we have a process to go through and fix our inhuman imperfections, then things can go a lot better.